Hello, my name's Nunny, and you're watching Underground Heroes.
Hey Nunny, thanks for having me, mate. My name's Byron Smith, and I'm a singer-songwriter and recording artist from Melbourne, Australia.
How long have you been making music, and what got you started?
I started playing music when I was probably about 4 or 5. My eldest brother, who's about 5 years older than me, played, and he had a guitar in his room, and I used to sneak in there when he wasn't in there and bash around on it. Not even playing chords, just strumming it and putting it out of tune. So I was in a little bit of trouble some of the time for doing that. But eventually got my own guitar and started getting lessons. Played in bands in my teens, then in my late teens started playing more seriously with some bands around Melbourne, right into my mid-20s. Had some albums out and had a pretty good following with some of those bands. But then life kind of got in the way. I did some travelling, settled down, had kids. So the music sort of went on the back burner for a while. And it wasn't until the start of 2020, well, a third of the way into it actually, when the big lockdown started in Melbourne due to the COVID pandemic, that I really thought, well, this is an opportunity to go back to the songs that I'd written, write some new ones, and start recording them and putting them out. And it's been really good.
What's your latest release called? Tell us a little something about the track.
My latest track is called In Your Eyes, and it's basically about a guy who's living with his partner and watching her fall out of love with him. And he's seeing the signs. She's constantly trying to reassure him that everything's okay, but he can see in her eyes and in her mannerisms and her behaviour that things are not quite going to plan for him. And it's a pretty upbeat poppy song despite that kind of sad sounding sentiment. And I had a lot of fun with the harmonies on that, and it's done pretty well so far. It's getting a lot of listens and a lot of great feedback from people, so I've been really happy with that.
Who's the last artist you just listened to?
Actually, the last artist that I've listened to is The Jobs, who are a band who I call the Cleveland Wonder Boys, from Cleveland, Ohio in the USA. They've become friends of mine through Twitter, and they have just released a new EP, and their music's really melodic, thoughtful, poppy, and with lots of harmonies, and it's sort of in the same kind of atmosphere as the stuff that I'm doing. And they just brought that out this morning, actually, my time here, when this was recorded, and so I've been giving that a good listen today and really enjoying it.
Can you tell me an interesting fact about you, something that we probably wouldn't know?
Okay, an interesting fact that you may not know about me is that I was once a rock music journalist in Australia. I was on staff at a magazine called Duke, which was a national music magazine, and I was there for 5 years, and during that time met a lot of pop stars and got to see a lot of bands, listen to a lot of records. I was in my 20s, and so it was a really fun time to be doing that kind of work, you know, because I was playing in bands as well, doing some radio shows. So that's something you may not know about me. The other thing that you may not know is that I was playing in a band at the Corner Hotel in Richmond in Melbourne back in the 80s in a jam band called the Party Animals. And Pink Floyd were in town, and they showed up, and Dave Gilmour asked if he could play my guitar. So I, of course, said yes, and he used my rig, and he got up on stage with Nick Mason and a few of the other members of Pink Floyd, the backing singers and the sax player, and did a bunch of blues and roots songs, and it was mind-blowing. It was just incredible, and to see him up there with my rig was pretty gratifying, I have to say.
What are your plans musically for 2021?
basically to keep making music, writing songs, and recording and putting them out, and at the same time trying to get them heard by as many people as possible. And so to that end, I have a single coming out on the 27th of January, or that came out on the 27th of January, depending on when you're watching this video, called Be Brave. And it's kind of about the resilience required to get through life, but it was made all the more poignant by the resilience people have had to show during the global pandemic, and just the courage to get through all the obstacles that life throws at you. An interesting fact about that song is that Jeff Jacobs, who was a keyboard player who toured with Billy Joel and played in Foreigner, actually plays piano on it. Through a strange confluence of circumstances, I came to be in touch with him, and he agreed to play the piano, so that was really nice.
What's inspired you to do music?
It's pretty much, I think, the same thing that drives most artists, is that there's kind of an inner need to express your feelings and emotions, and getting them out through writing and through music is one fantastic way to do that. I also love taking photos and painting as well, so it's kind of like the things are intrinsically linked in a way, that kind of creative spirit that lives within inside all of us. And so that's one of the things that inspires me, is that I just feel driven to do it. And the other thing that inspires me is having people enjoy the music, and having people kind of, I suppose, maybe get a little bit of insight into life, or maybe I'm sharing a little bit of wisdom or whatever, but just helping people. I think when you hear a song that you can relate to, because of its content, and it's maybe something you've experienced yourself, that helps you, because you feel like you're not alone anymore in the world, and somebody else who's felt the same thing. And so that's really gratifying to know that you may have helped somebody in some way through that process. I actually have a really nice fan in Croatia, Vicky. Hi Vicky, if you're watching. And the other day she sent me a recording of herself singing along to one of my songs, Set Me Free. And as a songwriter, you can't get any greater kind of endorsement than that somebody's taken the time to not only listen, but then to record themselves singing along with it. And it was really beautiful, and it touched my heart when she sent that. And I'm very grateful for that kind of feedback. And I've had a little bit of other feedback like that, but that was particularly special.
Okay, dream gig. What two artists or bands, dead or alive, would you perform with, and where would that gig be?
That's a really tough question, because there are just so many. I reckon that I would have liked to have played in Pink Floyd around the time of Dark Side of the Moon, or The Wall next to Dave Gilmour, and just felt that majestic sound behind us, going out into the world. Just a fantastic band and a magical moment. There are a few albums like that, like Dark Side of the Moon, and also Fleetwood Mac's Rumours, that just have some kind of magic to them that you can't quite put your finger on, but just so special. The other one would probably be, I guess I'd like to be up on stage playing next to Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, because he always has fantastic musicians around him, people like Warren Ellis, and I just think he's a gifted poet, fantastic performer with a lot of charisma. He's a hard-working guy, like he's got an amazing work ethic, and I think he's going to be remembered as one of the great artists of our generation. So I think he would be my second choice.
Where can people find your music?
Okay, so if you're looking to find any of my music, you can do so mainly through my website, which is byronsmithmusic.com. But you can also find it on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal. You can find it on YouTube. So if you were just to search Byron Smith Music on Google, you would probably hit some pay dirt. And if you can't find it, just go to my website, send me a message, and I'll make sure I get it to you somehow, because I want you to hear it.
Thanks for the interview. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Well, obviously you, Nani. I want to give you a bit of a shout out for organising this interview and for constantly supporting me on Twitter. And I'd like to really just shout out all the other supporters and friends that I've made through the Twitterverse. It's such a great community. Everyone's really supportive of each other. And I think especially during the pandemic, during 2020, that community really was the saviour for a lot of artists who weren't able to play live. Their incomes had been reduced. They were stuck at home, and there was a lot of love and support flying around on Twitter, and it's still there. And we all kind of boost each other and talk about the challenges that we face, and sharing those ideas really helps every one of us. So just to all my friends on Twitter, thank you very much. Of course, I'd also like to thank every single person who's taken the time to listen to my music or watch one of my music videos. That's ultimately the most exciting thing for an artist, is to have their work listened to. You may not like it, you may love it, you may have some kind of response to it, but whatever, it doesn't matter as long as you feel like your music's being listened to. I think that is gratification and reward in itself. Seeing the streaming rewards are pretty low. It's just great to know that people are listening, and that's what it's all about.